Lily Thompson stood at the foot of the rickety old ladder that led to her late grandmother's attic, its wooden rungs creaking under the weight of her curiosity. The attic was a world unto itself, a time capsule of old memories and forgotten treasures. Dust motes danced in the slivers of light that filtered through the small, grimy window, illuminating the cobwebs that clung to the corners like fragile veils. Clutching a flashlight in one hand and brushing her hair away from her face with the other, Lily took a deep breath and ascended the ladder, her heart pounding with anticipation. As she reached the top, the smell of aged paper and mothballs enveloped her. She stepped carefully across the creaky wooden floor, her sneakers making faint squeaking noises as they disturbed the dust that had settled for years. The attic was cluttered with old furniture draped in white sheets, boxes stacked haphazardly, and a myriad of family heirlooms that whispered stories of the past. It was a treasure trove for someone with a keen eye, and today, that someone was Lily. Just a few more boxes to sift through, she muttered to herself, her voice barely above a whisper. She had come to the attic with the intention of sorting through her grandmother's belongings, but deep down, she was searching for something. Anything that could connect her to the woman who had shaped so much of her childhood. Lily pushed aside a large cardboard box labeled Christmas decorations and stumbled upon a weathered briefcase tucked away in the corner, partially hidden beneath a tattered quilt. It was an unassuming object, but something about it called to her. She knelt down and carefully pulled it out, brushing off the dust that had settled on its leather surface. The briefcase was old, its once sleek exterior now cracked and faded, but it felt sturdy in her hands. "What secrets do you hold?" she wondered aloud, her fingers trembling with excitement as she unlatched the brass locks. The moment the briefcase opened, a musty smell wafted out, mingling with the scent of dust. Inside, she found a jumble of yellowed documents, loose photographs, and a collection of letters tied together with fraying twine. Her heart raced as she began to sift through the contents. The first item she pulled out was a photograph, and as she examined it closely, she felt a chill run down her spine. It was a picture of a man with a strong jawline and piercing blue eyes, a handsome figure whose expression was both stern and enigmatic. Scrawled on the back in elegant cursive were the words, "Henry Blackwood, 1975. The name was familiar. Lily had heard whispers of Henry Blackwood, the millionaire who had vanished without a trace years ago, leaving behind a trail of rumors and intrigue. As she continued to sort through the documents, she found a series of letters, each dated from the late 1970s. They were addressed to various individuals, discussing investments, properties, and financial dealings that seemed both mundane and yet laced with an air of mystery. One letter, in particular, caught her eye. It contained details about a hidden estate and references to a fortune that must remain undiscovered. Her mind raced with possibilities. What if this was the key to finding out what had happened to him? "Lily, are you up there?" A voice called from below, jolting her from her thoughts. It was Jake, her best friend, always the voice of reason in her more impulsive moments. She smiled, a burst of excitement bubbling up inside her. "Yeah, come up. You won't believe what I found," she shouted back, her voice echoing in the cramped space. She could hear his footsteps on the ladder, and moments later, Jake's head appeared through the opening. "What's all the commotion? Are you finally going to clean this place?" he teased, but his eyes widened when he saw the briefcase in her hands. "What's that?" "I think it belonged to Henry Blackwood," she said, her voice brimming with anticipation. She quickly began showing him the photographs and documents, her fingers trembling with excitement. "Henry Blackwood? The guy who disappeared? Are you serious?" Jake leaned closer, his interest piqued. "What do you have?" "Look at this letter," she exclaimed, holding it up for him to see. "It talks about a hidden estate and a fortune that must be kept secret. What if this is the clue we've been looking for?" Jake's eyebrows knit together in thought. "This is big, Lily. We should take this to the library and see if we can find more about him." "Absolutely. We need to figure out what happened to him," she replied, her excitement palpable. They both knew that uncovering the mystery of Henry Blackwood could lead to something significant, perhaps even life-changing. As they made their way down the ladder, Lily felt a rush of adrenaline. This was exactly the kind of adventure she had been longing for. She could almost taste the thrill of discovery on her tongue, and with Jake by her side, she felt invincible. Once they arrived at their favorite cafe, a quaint little spot with mismatched furniture and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafting through the air, they settled into their usual booth. The cafe was bustling with the midday crowd, the sound of laughter and chatter providing a comforting backdrop to their growing excitement. "Okay, let's figure this out," Jake said, pulling out his laptop and opening it on the table. "I'll start searching for anything related to Henry Blackwood." Lily nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. "I'll go through the documents again and see if there's anything we missed." She pulled out the photograph and the letters, laying them out on the table like pieces of a puzzle waiting to be assembled. As they worked, the cafe buzzed around them, but their focus was unwavering. The minutes turned into hours as they pored over the information, their enthusiasm undeterred by the increasing noise. Then, just as Lily was about to tuck away a particularly intriguing letter, her attention was caught by a group of men seated at the next table. They were dressed in dark clothing, their voices low but intense. "Did you hear about the missing fortune?" one of them asked, leaning in closer to his companions. "It's out there, and we need to find it before anyone else does." Lily's heart raced. Did they know something about Henry's fortune? She exchanged a glance with Jake, who was already listening intently, his expression a mix of curiosity and concern. "Yeah, I heard it's connected to that old millionaire," another man replied, his voice laced with a hint of urgency. "If we get our hands on it first, we'll be set for life." Lily leaned closer, trying to catch every word, her mind racing with implications. She grabbed Jake's arm, her eyes wide. "Did you hear that? They're talking about the fortune. We have to find out what they know." "Let's not make it obvious," Jake whispered back, his eyes darting between the men and their table. "But we should definitely keep an ear out." Their hearts raced with the thrill of eavesdropping, and as the men continued to speak in hushed tones, they unintentionally pulled Lily and Jake deeper into the mystery that was unfolding around them. The cafe's lively atmosphere faded into the background as they became consumed by the possibilities that lay ahead. "Do you think they know about the documents?" Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if they're dangerous?" Jake shrugged, his expression serious. "We need to be careful. Let's not act too eager. We'll do some more digging and see what we can uncover about them." Lily nodded, her mind racing with thoughts of adventure, danger, and the tantalizing prospect of a hidden fortune. The thrill of the unknown ignited a fire within her, urging her to pursue the mystery of Henry Blackwood and whatever secrets lay waiting to be discovered. As the group of men continued their hushed conversation, Lily felt a sense of determination wash over her. She was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, and with Jake by her side, she knew they would uncover the truth together. There was a world of secrets waiting just beneath the surface, and Lily was determined to dive deep enough to bring them into the light. Lily sat at her kitchen table, the early morning light filtering through the window, casting a warm glow on the old documents spread before her. Each page was a window into a life shrouded in mystery, belonging to Henry Blackwood, the reclusive millionaire whose disappearance had left the town buzzing with speculation for years. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was on the brink of uncovering something monumental, but the weight of the task ahead loomed over her like a storm cloud. "You sure about this, Lil?" Jake's voice cut through her thoughts, pulling her back to the present. He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, concern etched across his face. "I mean, digging into someone's past like this? It could get messy." Lily looked up from the papers, her heart racing with a mix of excitement and trepidation. "I have to know, Jake. These documents, they could lead us to something important. I can feel it." Jake sighed, stepping into the kitchen and taking a seat across from her. "I get that, but what if it's dangerous? What if we attract the wrong kind of attention?" "I know there are risks," she replied, her voice steady despite the flutter of anxiety in her stomach. "But we can't just pretend these don't exist. What if this is our chance to uncover the truth about Henry Blackwood and what really happened to him?" He studied her for a moment, then nodded slowly. "All right, let's do this, but we need a plan." We can start by talking to some of the locals. They might have known him or heard something. Lily felt a rush of determination. Let's head to the diner. It's always buzzing with gossip, and I'm sure someone there has a story to tell. The diner was a hub of activity, the clatter of plates and the hum of conversation filling the air. As they entered, the familiar scent of coffee and pancakes wrapped around them like a comforting blanket. They slid into a booth by the window, and Lily scanned the room, spotting a few familiar faces. "Look, there's Mrs. Hargrove," Jake pointed discreetly. "She used to babysit for Henry's family. Maybe she knows something." Lily nodded, her heart racing. "Let's go talk to her." As they approached the older woman, who was seated with a group of friends, Lily felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. "Excuse me, Mrs. Hargrove, do you have a moment?" The woman looked up, her expression shifting from surprise to warmth. "Lily, how you've grown." "Of course, dear. What brings you here?" "We're looking into Henry Blackwood's past," Lily said, her voice steady. "We found some documents that belong to him, and we're trying to learn more about his life and what happened to him." Mrs. Hargrove's smile faded, replaced by a cloud of nostalgia. "Oh, Henry, such a brilliant young man, but he got mixed up with the wrong crowd. People always talked about him, you know? Rumors of money, scandals. It's a shame." "What kind of scandals?" Jake interjected, leaning forward. "Did he ever mention anything about illegal activities?" Mrs. Hargrove hesitated, glancing at her friends before continuing. "Well, there were whispers. Some said he was involved in less-than-legal ventures. I can't say for sure, but he was always secretive about his business dealings." Lily exchanged a glance with Jake, her heart racing. "Did he ever mention a hidden stash of money, or anything like that?" The older woman frowned, deep in thought. "There were whispers. People believed he had set something aside, hidden away from prying eyes, but I wouldn't know where to look." "Thank you, Mrs. Hargrove," Lily said, gratitude spilling from her. "Anything you remember could help us." As they returned to their booth, Jake rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "A hidden stash, huh? That could be our lead." "Yeah, but it's not much to go on," Lily replied, her mind racing. "We need to find more information. Let's check the library next." The town library was a quaint building with tall shelves that towered over them, filled with dusty tomes and local history. They made their way to the back, where the archives were stored, and began sifting through old newspapers and records that chronicled the town's past. "Here," Jake exclaimed, pulling a yellowed newspaper clipping from a folder. "Look at this." Lily leaned over, her breath hitching as she read the headline. "Local millionaire disappears amidst scandal." The article detailed the events leading up to Henry's disappearance, mentioning accusations of embezzlement and ties to organized crime. "This is it. This could explain everything." As they continued reading, they stumbled upon another article that caught their attention. "This one mentions a letter found in Henry's office," Lily said, her fingers trembling with excitement. It hinted at some illegal dealings, but also spoke of a safe place where he kept his money. "We have to find that letter." "Where do you think it could be?" Jake asked, scanning the rows of books. "Maybe in the town records? They might have archived his business dealings or personal documents," Lily suggested, her mind racing with possibilities. Hours passed as they combed through the archives, but their efforts paid off when Lily discovered a musty folder labeled Blackwood Holdings. Inside, she found a collection of letters and correspondence that detailed Henry's business ventures, but one letter stood out. It was a short note, hastily written, and it sent chills down her spine. "Jake, look at this," she said, her voice barely above a whisper as she read the letter aloud. "If you find this, it means my life is in danger. I've hidden everything in a place where no one would think to look. Trust no one." "Wow," Jake said, his eyes wide. "This is serious." He knew something was going down. "Yeah, and it seems like he was trying to protect himself," Lily said, her heart pounding. "But where could he have hidden everything?" As they left the library, the weight of the investigation pressed heavily on Lily's shoulders. That night, as she sat alone in her room, she pulled out her phone, scrolling through the messages she had received throughout the day. But one message stood out, sending a chill down her spine. "Stop digging into Henry Blackwood's past. You don't know what you're getting into." Lily's breath caught in her throat. A sense of dread washed over her. Who had sent this? And how did they know what she was doing? She could feel the adrenaline coursing through her veins, a mix of fear and determination igniting within her. "Jake," she whispered urgently, grabbing her phone and texting him. "We need to meet. Something's happened." Within minutes, Jake was at her door, concern etched across his face. "What's going on?" "I got a threatening message," she said, her voice shaking. "Someone knows we're investigating Henry, and they want us to stop." "Did they say who they were?" Jake asked, his brows furrowing. "No, just a warning. But I can't back down now. I need to figure out what happened to him, and I need your help." Jake placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll figure this out together. But we need to be careful. Whoever sent that message won't just let us walk away." Lily nodded, feeling the weight of her resolve. "I won't back down, and I won't let fear control me. We're going to find the truth, no matter what it takes." As they sat together in the dim light of her room, the reality of their situation settled in. They were venturing into dangerous territory, but nothing could deter Lily from uncovering the mystery surrounding Henry Blackwood. It was a journey that would test their limits, challenge their morals, and ultimately shape their destinies. Together, they would face whatever darkness lay ahead, driven by a desire for truth and justice. Lily stood at the edge of the deserted warehouse, a chill running down her spine as the wind howled through the cracks in the building's facade. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows that danced ominously on the ground. She exchanged a nervous glance with Jake, who was fidgeting with the hem of his jacket, his usual confidence replaced by an air of apprehension. "Are you sure about this?" Jake asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Confronting those guys? They looked pretty dangerous." "They're the only lead we have, Jake," Lily replied, her determination shining through despite her own fears. "If they know something about the missing fortune, we have to find out what it is. Besides, we can't let them intimidate us." With a resolute nod, she took a deep breath and stepped towards the entrance. The heavy metal door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit interior that smelled of rust and neglect. To her left, she could hear the muffled voices of the group she had overheard at the cafe, their laughter mingling with the sound of clinking bottles. "Let's stick together," Jake whispered, falling into step beside her. "We'll just ask what they know and get out of here, okay?" "Okay," Lily agreed. "But if things get out of hand, we need to find a way to escape. We can't take any chances." As they moved deeper into the warehouse, the atmosphere thickened with tension. The group was gathered around a makeshift table, their faces illuminated by the flickering light of a single bulb hanging overhead. Among them, a tall man with a scruffy beard and piercing blue eyes caught Lily's attention. He was leaning back in his chair, a cocky smirk plastered on his face. "You think they'll show?" he asked, glancing at the others. "Bet they're too scared to come here." Lily felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She and Jake had no choice but to approach them now. Steeling herself, she stepped forward, her heart racing. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside her. The group turned to face her, surprise etched across their faces. The tall man raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Well, look what the cat dragged in. You're not supposed to be here, little lady." "We're not here to cause trouble," Jake interjected, trying to sound more confident than he felt. "We just want to talk. We overheard you mentioning a missing fortune. We think we might know something about it." The man's smirk widened, and he leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. "Oh, really? And what makes you think we want to share our secrets with you?" Lily took a step closer, her voice firm. "Because we're looking for the truth about Henry Blackwood. We found his documents, and we know there's more to his story than what people say." The atmosphere shifted instantly. The group exchanged glances, and the tension in the room escalated. The man straightened, his demeanor changing from playful to serious. "You shouldn't be digging into things you don't understand, girl," he warned, his tone low and threatening. Before Lily could respond, another man from the group, shorter and stockier, chimed in. "Yeah, you're just asking for trouble. Henry Blackwood was a ghost for a reason. You really want to be poking around in his business?" "We're not afraid," Jake shot back, surprising Lily with his boldness. "We're just trying to find out what happened to him. If there's a fortune involved, we want to make sure it's not being hidden by people like you." The tall man leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "You think you can just waltz in here and demand answers? You don't know who you're dealing with." "Then enlighten us," Lily replied, surprising herself with her own courage. "If you know something about Henry, then you owe it to him to tell us." A tense silence filled the air as the group studied her, the weight of their gazes heavy. Finally, the tall man sighed, his expression shifting from arrogance to something more contemplative. "Fine," he said, uncrossing his arms. "I'll give you a taste of what you're dealing with, but it comes with a warning. There are forces at play here that you can't even begin to comprehend." Lily felt a flicker of hope. "What do you mean?" "Henry was onto something big," he explained, leaning closer. "He was trying to expose some serious corruption in this town, and he had a lot of powerful people worried. The documents you found? They're not just about money. They're about secrets that could bring down the whole operation. Then why don't you help us?" Jake asked, his voice laced with skepticism. "If you know the truth, why are you working with those guys?" The tall man's expression hardened again. "You think I'm working with them? You're mistaken. I'm trying to protect Henry's legacy, but it's not easy. People like him, people with power, don't like to be exposed. They'll do anything to keep their secrets buried." Lily felt a surge of determination. "Then help us. We can't let this go on. If there's a chance to find the truth about Henry and what happened to him, we owe it to him to try." The man studied her for a moment, a flicker of respect crossing his features. "You're either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish," he said, a hint of a smile breaking through. "But I like your spirit. My name is Tom, by the way. If you really want to help Henry, you'll need to be careful. There are eyes everywhere, and they're watching you." "Then what's the next step?" Jake asked, glancing nervously at the other members of the group, who remained silent, their expressions unreadable. Tom leaned back in his chair, weighing his options. "I can't promise you safety, but if you're serious about this, I can help you gather more information. There are places we can check, leads we can follow. You're not in this alone anymore." Lily felt a rush of relief. She had come to the warehouse seeking answers, and now, with Tom's unexpected alliance, they had a fighting chance. "We'll do whatever it takes," she said fiercely. "We can't let this go unchallenged." "All right," Tom replied, his expression shifting into one of determination. "Meet me here tomorrow night. Bring everything you've got on Henry, documents, photos, anything. We'll dig deeper into this together." As they prepared to leave, Jake turned to Lily, his expression a mix of excitement and concern. "Do you really trust him?" "I don't know," she admitted, glancing back at Tom, who was now speaking quietly with one of his friends. "But we don't have many options left. If he's telling the truth, he might be the key to uncovering what really happened to Henry." With a shared sense of purpose, Lily and Jake stepped back into the cool night air, the weight of the warehouse still heavy on their shoulders. As they walked towards Jake's car, the adrenaline from the confrontation surged within Lily, fueling her determination to see this through. "Whatever happens next, we're in this together, right?" Jake asked as he started the engine. "Always," Lily replied, her mind racing with thoughts of what lay ahead. The path they had chosen was fraught with danger, but she couldn't turn back now. The mystery of Henry Blackwood was calling to her, and she was ready to answer. With a newfound sense of purpose, they drove away from the warehouse, the shadows of the past lingering behind them. As the town lights flickered in the distance, Lily felt a flicker of hope. They were on the brink of uncovering something monumental, and she was determined to see it through to the end, no matter the cost. The air was thick with anticipation as Lily, Jake, and Tom stood outside the crumbling gates of the abandoned estate. Weeds poked through the cracked pavement, and the once grand structure loomed behind them, the windows like dark, watchful eyes. Lily felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. This was the place where they hoped to uncover the secrets of Henry Blackwood, the reclusive millionaire whose mysterious past had drawn them into a web of intrigue and danger. "Are you sure we should be doing this?" Jake asked, his voice low as he scanned the area for any sign of trouble. The tension in his shoulders was palpable, a physical manifestation of his concern. Absolutely, Tom replied, his determination unwavering. This is where it all began for Henry. If there are any clues about his disappearance, they're bound to be here. He adjusted his baseball cap, a habit he had when he was about to embark on something risky. Lily took a deep breath, pushing aside her nerves. We can't turn back now. If we find anything that can help us understand what happened to Henry, it'll all be worth it. She stepped forward, her heart racing with the thrill of the unknown. The estate had been abandoned for years, its grandeur faded but still visible in the intricate woodwork and the overgrown gardens. As they approached the front door, Tom pulled out a flashlight. "I'll go first," he said, taking the lead. He pushed the door open, and it creaked ominously, revealing a dark hallway lined with dusty portraits of the Blackwood family. The air inside was stale, carrying the scent of mildew and memories long forgotten. Lily followed closely behind, her heart pounding in her chest. "This place is incredible," she whispered. "Can you imagine the parties they must have held here?" Jake chuckled, though his voice was strained. "Yeah, if they also had a thing for ghost stories. This place gives me the creeps." Tom led them deeper into the house, pausing at a door that seemed to have been recently disturbed, a clear sign that they were not the first to trespass. "Let's check this out," he said, nudging the door open with the tip of his shoe. Inside, they discovered a cluttered room filled with old furniture covered in white sheets, like ghosts waiting to be unveiled. In one corner stood a large, ornate desk, its surface littered with papers and objects that seemed to tell a story of their own. Lily stepped forward, her fingers itching to touch the items. "Look at this," she said, picking up a dusty leather-bound book. It was a ledger, filled with meticulous entries. These could be records of his dealings. As she flipped through the pages, a faint glimmer caught her eye. "What's this?" she muttered, pulling out a small, intricately carved box hidden beneath the stack of papers. It was locked, but there was something about it that felt important. "Can you open it?" Jake asked, peering over her shoulder. "I don't know," Lily replied, frowning. "There might be a key somewhere around here." Just as Tom was about to search the desk for a key, Lily's gaze shifted to a faded photograph pinned to the wall. "Wait, look at this," she exclaimed, pointing to the image of a younger Henry Blackwood standing beside several men in suits, their faces stern and serious. "What do you think that's about?" Jake asked, studying the photo. "Maybe it's a clue," Tom suggested. "If we can identify these men, it might lead us to what Henry was involved in." Lily nodded, her mind racing. "Let's take a picture of this and keep searching." She pulled out her phone and snapped a photo of the photograph, her determination renewed. As they continued to explore, they stumbled upon a hidden door at the back of the room, partially concealed behind a worn tapestry. It creaked loudly as Tom pushed it open, revealing a narrow staircase leading down into darkness. "Are you sure we want to go down there?" Jake asked, his voice laced with apprehension. "Absolutely," Tom said, a thrill in his voice. This might be where he kept his secrets. Lily's heart raced as they descended the staircase, the air growing cooler and heavier. Once at the bottom, they found themselves in a dimly lit room filled with old furniture and stacks of papers. Cobwebs hung in the corners, and the floor was littered with debris. "Wow," Lily breathed, taking in the sight. "What is this place?" "Looks like a storage room," Tom said, shining the flashlight around. "But it's so much more than that." In the far corner, a large, wooden cabinet caught Lily's eye. She walked over and opened the doors, revealing shelves lined with boxes and crates. "Help me with this," she called out to Jake. Together, they pulled out a heavy crate, dust swirling in the air around them. Inside, they found old newspapers, articles that chronicled Henry's life and the scandals that had surrounded him. "Look at this," Lily said, her finger tracing the headline of an article. "Henry Blackwood, businessman or corrupt tycoon?" Tom leaned in closer, reading over her shoulder. It seems like he was always in the middle of something shady. But why? "Maybe he was trying to expose someone," Lily suggested, her mind racing with possibilities. He could have been blackmailing people to protect himself or to bring them down. Jake shook his head, clearly overwhelmed. This is getting deeper than I expected. We need to be careful." As they continued to sift through the papers, Lily's heart raced with each new discovery. They found documents outlining financial transactions, names of powerful individuals, and contracts that seemed to imply illegal dealings. "This is it," Tom said, his voice a mix of excitement and fear. "This could be the evidence we need to understand what happened to him. Or it could be the evidence that puts us in danger," Jake warned, his eyes darting around the room. "We need to keep moving and find a way out of here." Just then, a loud crash echoed from above, causing them all to freeze. The sound of footsteps approached, heavy and deliberate. "Someone's coming," Lily whispered urgently, her heart pounding in her chest. "Quick, hide," Tom urged, and they scrambled to find cover behind the stacks of crates. They held their breath as the door swung open, revealing two shadowy figures. The dim light from the staircase illuminated their faces, revealing hardened expressions and eyes filled with malice. "Where are they?" one of the men growled, scanning the room with a predatory glare. The trio exchanged terrified glances, realizing they were in serious trouble. They had to think fast. "Stay quiet," Tom mouthed, his eyes narrowing in concentration. The men began to search the room, tossing aside boxes and papers as if they were looking for something specific. Lily's mind raced as she contemplated their next move. They couldn't afford to be caught, not now when they were so close to uncovering the truth. "I think they're looking for the documents," Jake whispered, his voice barely above a breath. "Then we can't let them find us," Lily replied, her heart racing. Just then, one of the men turned, his eyes narrowing as he spotted something glimmering on the floor. "What's this?" he said, bending down to pick up a small photograph that had slipped from Lily's pocket during their frantic search. The man held it up, revealing the image of Henry Blackwood standing with his back turned, the ornate estate in the background. "I think we've found our little treasure hunters," he sneered, glancing back at his companion. "Time to go," Tom said, pushing the others toward a small door at the back of the room. "Now." They dashed for the exit, hearts pounding as they fled the room and raced up the stairs. The sounds of the men shouting behind them echoed in their ears, urgency propelling them forward. As they reached the main floor, Lily glanced back just in time to see one of the men barreling toward them, determination etched on his face. "They're right behind us," she shouted, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Out the front door," Jake yelled, and they sprinted for the entrance, pushing through the creaky door just as it swung open behind them. They burst outside, the cool air hitting their faces like a slap. "Go, go, go," Tom urged, leading the way down the overgrown path leading away from the estate. They ran for what felt like an eternity, the sounds of their pursuers fading behind them. Finally, they stopped to catch their breath, leaning against an old oak tree, their hearts racing. "What do we do now?" Jake panted, wiping sweat from his brow. Lily's mind was racing, filled with thoughts of the documents they had uncovered and the danger they now faced. "We need to regroup and figure out how to use what we found. We have evidence that could expose the corruption, but we need to be smart about it. Let's get somewhere safe first," Tom suggested, glancing back toward the estate. "We can't risk being caught again." "Agreed," Lily said, determination settling in her chest. "We're not done yet, not by a long shot." As they made their way through the woods, the weight of their discoveries pressed heavily upon them. They had stumbled into a dark world filled with secrets, and while they had managed to escape this time, it was clear that the real Lily, Jake, and Tom found themselves huddled in a dimly lit basement of an old, abandoned building on the outskirts of town. The air was thick with the scent of damp wood and mildew, but it offered them the anonymity they desperately needed. A small, flickering bulb hung from the ceiling, casting wavering shadows on the walls, as they gathered around a makeshift table littered with documents, photographs, and the remnants of their hastily gathered supplies. "All right, we need to come up with a solid plan to get these documents out to the public," Lily said, her voice steady despite the anxiety swirling in her mind. She could feel the weight of the papers pressing down on her, a tangible reminder of the danger they were in. Jake leaned forward, his brow furrowed in thought. "If we just leak them online, we might not get the attention we need." We need to make sure that the right people see them, people who can really do something about it. Tom nodded, his expression serious. I agree, but we also need to be careful. If those guys who were following us catch wind of our plan, we could be in serious trouble. They won't hesitate to silence us. Lily's heart raced at the thought of the shady characters who had been tailing them. So, what do we do? We can't just sit here and wait for them to find us. Let's think this through, Jake suggested. We could arrange a meeting with a journalist we can trust, someone who has experience with this kind of story. They'll know how to handle it and can help us get the documents into the right hands. Do you think we can find someone like that on short notice? Tom asked, his voice laced with skepticism. Lily straightened her back, determination flooding her veins. We have to try. There's too much at stake here. If Henry was right and these documents can expose the corruption in this town, then we owe it to him and ourselves to see this through. As they debated their options, Lily's phone buzzed violently on the table, breaking the tension in the room. She snatched it up, glancing at the screen. A call was coming in from an unknown number. Should I answer it? She asked, her voice laced with uncertainty. Tom exchanged glances with Jake, both of them hesitant. It could be a trap, Jake warned. Or it could be important, Lily countered, her curiosity piqued. What if it's someone who can help us? Taking a deep breath, she pressed the answer button. Hello? Lily? A soft, trembling voice came through the line. My name is Clara. I think I'm Henry Blackwood's sister. Lily's heart skipped a beat. The revelation was both shocking and thrilling, yet a nagging doubt gnawed at her. Sister? How do I know you're telling the truth? I know about the documents, Clara said urgently. I have vital information about Henry's fate. You need to meet me. It's important. Why should we trust you? Jake interjected, his protective instincts kicking in. Because I want to help you, Clara replied, her tone turning desperate. I haven't seen my brother in years, and I fear for his life. Please, just meet me at Riverside Park tomorrow at noon. I promise, I'm not like those other people. Lily glanced at her friends, weighing the options. What do you think? She asked, her voice a whisper. I don't like it, Tom said, crossing his arms. We don't know who she is or what her intentions are. It could be a trap, or it could be our chance to learn the truth about Henry, Lily countered. What if she really is his sister? What if she knows something that can help us? Jake sighed, rubbing the back of his neck in frustration. We're already in over our heads, but if there's even a chance she's telling the truth, we can't ignore it. Let's keep it low-key, Tom suggested. We should scout the area first, make sure we're not walking into an ambush. Lily nodded, her resolve strengthening. Okay, we'll meet her, but we'll be cautious. We can't let our guard down. As the conversation shifted back to logistics, Lily couldn't shake the feeling of unease that settled in her stomach. They spent the rest of the evening devising a plan, determining how they'd approach the meeting with Clara and what precautions they'd take. The following day dawned gray and overcast, a fitting backdrop for their tense mission. As they arrived at Riverside Park, Lily felt a shiver run down her spine. The park was eerily quiet. The usual chatter of children playing and couples laughing was absent. Instead, the wind rustled through the trees, creating an unsettling atmosphere. Let's stick together, Jake murmured, scanning the area for any signs of trouble. Stay alert. They walked along the winding path, their footsteps muffled by the soft grass. Lily's heart raced as they approached a small clearing where Clara had agreed to meet them. She could see a figure in the distance, a woman with long, dark hair standing near a bench, her back turned to them. There she is, Lily said, her voice barely above a whisper. What do we do now? Let's approach cautiously, Tom advised. As they neared, Clara turned around, her expression a mix of hope and fear. You came, she said, relief flooding her voice. Let's make this quick, Jake said, glancing around. We don't want to draw attention. Clara nodded, her eyes darting nervously. I have information about Henry's disappearance. He was in danger. He uncovered something big, something that could ruin a lot of powerful people in this town. Lily's breath caught in her throat. What do you mean? What did he find? Clara took a deep breath, her hands trembling. He discovered a network of corruption involving people in positions of power. I had no idea until I started looking for him. He was trying to expose them, but I think they found out about it before he could finish. Do you have proof? Tom asked, his skepticism still evident. How do we know you're telling the truth? I have letters, documents, proof that he was onto something, Clara insisted, her eyes pleading. But I need your help to retrieve them. I can't do it alone. They're watching me too. Just then, Lily spotted a shadow lurking behind a tree nearby. Her heart raced as she recognized the familiar face of one of the shady characters they had encountered before. Guys, we're not alone, she hissed, her voice tense. Clara's eyes widened in fear. We have to go. They can't find us here. Run, Jake shouted, grabbing Lily's arm and pulling her away. Tom was right behind them, glancing over his shoulder as they sprinted down the path. Lily's mind raced as they dashed through the park. The adrenaline coursed through her, spurring her legs to move faster. She could hear footsteps pounding behind them, the sound growing closer with each passing moment. Where do we go? Tom yelled, his voice strained. Over there. Lily pointed to a row of trees that could provide cover. They veered off the path, plunging into the underbrush just as the shady characters burst into the clearing, shouting and searching for them. They crouched behind the trees, their hearts pounding in their chests. Lily glanced at her friends, her mind racing with the implications of what was happening. If Clara was telling the truth, then Henry had been onto something monumental, something that could change their town forever. Do you think they saw us? Jake whispered, his voice barely audible. I don't know, Lily replied, her eyes glued to the path they had just run from. But we can't stay here for long. Clara, who had been silent beside them, looked pale and shaken. I didn't mean for this to happen. I thought I could trust you. Do you know who they are? Tom pressed, his voice firm. They're part of the network Henry exposed, Clara said, her voice trembling. They've been looking for him, for the documents. If they find us, we can't let that happen, Lily cut in, her voice filled with determination. We need to get back to the safe house and regroup. We'll figure out our next move from there. They waited, listening intently as the sounds of the men searching began to fade. After what felt like an eternity, they slowly emerged from their hiding spot. The park was still eerily quiet, but the danger was far from over. Let's move, Jake urged, leading the way back to the path. We need to get out of here before they realize we're gone. As they hurried away, Lily couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something monumental. But with the stakes rising and danger lurking around every corner, she knew they had to be careful. The truth about Henry Blackwood, and the corruption that had kept him hidden for so long, was more important than ever. And no matter the cost, she was determined to uncover it. The park was alive with the vibrant colors of autumn, leaves swirling in the gentle breeze that whispered secrets of the past. Lily, Jake, and Tom approached the designated meeting spot with a mix of anticipation and trepidation. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows that danced ominously around them. They had chosen this secluded location, a quiet glade surrounded by towering oaks, hoping it would shield them from prying eyes. But as they neared the park bench where the mysterious woman had instructed them to meet, a chill crept up Lily's spine. Are you sure about this? Jake asked, his voice barely above a whisper. He kept glancing over his shoulder, as if expecting the shady characters to emerge from the underbrush at any moment. We need to know what she has to say, Lily replied, determination etched on her face. If she really is Henry's sister, she might hold the key to everything. Tom nodded, his brow furrowed in thought. But if she's not who she claims to be, we could be walking into a trap. We should be ready for anything. As they reached the bench, Lily spotted a woman sitting there, her back turned to them. She wore a long, dark coat that flapped slightly in the wind, and her hair cascaded in curls down her back. There was an air of confidence about her, but also something unsettling. Lily felt a knot tighten in her stomach. Excuse me? Lily called, her voice steady despite her unease. The woman turned slowly, revealing sharp features and piercing blue eyes that seemed to appraise them with an unsettling intensity. Ah, you must be Lily, the woman said, a slight smile playing on her lips. "I've been waiting for you." Lily exchanged a glance with Jake and Tom, silently assessing the situation. "And you are?" she asked, keeping her tone neutral. "I'm Margaret Blackwood," the woman replied, her smile widening. "Henry's sister. I've been looking for the documents you've uncovered. I believe they belong to me." Lily's heart raced. "You said you had information about Henry's fate." "Indeed," Margaret said, leaning forward slightly. "But first, we need to discuss the documents. They're far too dangerous to be in the hands of amateurs like you." Jake narrowed his eyes, suspicion bubbling to the surface. "What do you mean by dangerous?" Margaret let out a soft laugh, the sound tinged with something insidious. "You've stumbled into a world you don't understand. The people involved in your little investigation are not just corrupt. They are powerful and ruthless. They don't take kindly to interference." Lily stepped forward, her resolve hardening. "And you think you can just waltz in here and take them from us? Why should we trust you?" Margaret's expression shifted, her smile fading. "Because, dear Lily, I can offer you something you can't refuse. I can help you retrieve the hidden fortune that your family has a claim to. But I need the documents first." "Why should we believe you?" Tom interjected, crossing his arms defensively. "You could be just another player in this corrupt game." Margaret's eyes flashed with annoyance, but she quickly masked it with a calm demeanor. "I assure you, I have no interest in playing games. My brother was trying to expose the corruption in this town before he disappeared, and I intend to see that through to the end. But I can't do it without those documents." Lily felt a surge of anger. "So you're just using us to get what you want? What if we refuse?" Margaret leaned back, her expression turning icy. "Then you'll find yourselves in a very dangerous position. The people you're dealing with are not to be trifled with. You think you know what you're up against, but you have no idea." The tension in the air thickened as Lily weighed her options. She glanced at Jake and Tom, who were both visibly on edge. "We can't just hand them over," she said firmly. "We've worked too hard for this, and we deserve to know the truth." Margaret's lips curled into a sly smile, and for the first time, Lily felt a sense of foreboding. "You're making a mistake, Lily. You think you're the hero of this story, but you're simply a pawn in a much larger game." With that, she stood up abruptly, her coat flowing around her like a shadow. "I'll give you one chance to reconsider. Meet me tomorrow at the old mill at noon. If you have the documents, I'll share everything I know. If not—" She let the sentence hang ominously in the air before turning on her heel and walking away. "Wait," Lily called out, but it was too late. Margaret had vanished into the thickening shadows of the trees, leaving behind an unsettling silence that enveloped them like a shroud. "What the hell just happened?" Jake exclaimed, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "She's just going to walk away after that?" Tom shook his head, his expression grave. "We can't trust her. She's clearly involved in whatever Henry was trying to expose." Lily's mind raced, the implications of Margaret's words swirling around her like leaves caught in a whirlwind. "We need to figure out our next move. We can't just hand over the documents, but we also can't ignore her threats. We have to play this smart." "Agreed," Tom said, glancing around as if expecting Margaret to return. "We need to go through everything we have and see if there's a way to turn this situation to our advantage." As they walked away from the park, the weight of the documents pressed heavily in Lily's bag, a constant reminder of the stakes they were facing. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting the world into twilight, and she felt a growing sense of urgency. They had come too far to turn back now. Later that evening, they gathered in Lily's living room, the dim light illuminating the scattered papers that had become the center of their lives. The air was thick with tension as they spread the documents across the coffee table, trying to make sense of the chaos. "Let's go through everything again," Jake suggested, his fingers tracing the edges of a faded photograph of Henry standing beside a grand estate. "Maybe we missed something that could help us." With a grim determination, they delved into the papers, piecing together fragments of Henry's life, his connections, and the web of deceit that surrounded his disappearance. Hours slipped away as they pored over the documents, their exhaustion only fueling their resolve. "Okay, here," Lily said suddenly, her finger landing on a section of a letter that had previously gone unnoticed. This mentions a meeting Henry had with someone named Victor Reynolds. It says he had information that could expose the corruption in the town. Victor Reynolds? Tom repeated, furrowing his brow. I've heard that name before. He's one of the key players in the corruption. If Henry was meeting with him, it could explain why he disappeared. Maybe we can use this to our advantage, Jake suggested, his eyes gleaming with the spark of a plan forming. If we can find out more about this meeting, we could potentially turn the tables on Margaret and anyone else involved. Lily nodded, feeling a surge of hope. We need to find out where Reynolds is now. If we can confront him, he might give us the leverage we need to deal with Margaret. As they continued their research, the clock ticked away, reminding them of the looming deadline. They worked late into the night, fueled by adrenaline and the prospect of uncovering the truth. Finally, as dawn began to break, they felt a renewed sense of purpose. It's time to go after Reynolds, Lily declared, her voice steady as she looked at her friends. We have to be careful, but we can't let fear hold us back. This is our chance to take control of the situation. With their plan set, they prepared to confront the corrupt forces that had been haunting their town for far too long. The journey ahead would not be easy, but united in their resolve, they felt ready to face whatever challenges lay in their path. As they stepped out into the crisp morning air, determination coursed through them. The sun rose brightly in the sky, illuminating the shadows of the past while beckoning them toward a future filled with hope. They were no longer just pawns in someone else's game. They were players in their own story, ready to write the next chapter.